Hi, folks. This is Mountain Man coming to you from parts unknown. Ha ha! Boy, what a big day for Mr. T today. He came out swinging. He was not in a good mood with what they were doing to him down there in New York, and really what they've been doing to everybody in this country. And always keep in mind, even if you don't like Mr. T, always keep in mind, if they can do this to him, they can do it to you. And believe me, anybody else would have been mincemeat by now. Totally unjust. Yeah, true, but mincemeat nonetheless. So he is taking the slings and arrows. There's no doubt about it. So I hope everybody's doing well. And we'll try to have a good time tonight, even though I'm going to play some clips when Trump arrived at the courthouse, made a statement during the lunch break. He came out swinging. He was very animated, and then a short clip at the end. So it was a roller coaster day, and he's pointing out some very important things. And anyway, how you like my little startup here? Elon Musk put this up. Let me see if I can get that to go somewhere. Oh, my word. Come on now. There we go. Imagine a vaccine so safe. You have to be threatened to take it for a disease so deadly. You have to be tested to know you have it. Ha ha ha. And does that look like a door handle to you? Let's see who's in here tonight, here this evening. Who's in here this evening? Ha ha. Hi, Nikki. How you doing? Damon, Mike, 1176. Robin. Nice to see you, Robin. Yeah, Diane, Joel, Kickenbird, Henri gave me a thumbs up. Diane, Michael, Kathy, Debbie, Diane. Oh, now, Michael, you tell that good-looking thing you're sitting there with. Tell her Mountain Man said hi. I don't know if you let her in on your chats or not. Ha ha! Just kidding. Hi, Georgia. Annette, how you doing? The profile picture real tiny, but I'm wearing two glasses tonight, two pairs of glasses, so I could see there's two people in your picture. Sharon, how are you doing? I hope I didn't miss anybody. Kathy, Diane, Sherry, nice to see you all. This isn't working out too good. I could take one of these off. Hi, Alicia. I thought I'd try something new. Stack up my glasses. Anyway, so I know you all are trying to keep up with what was happening to Mr. T today. Hi, Crazy Cajun Lady. Nice to see you. Oh, you just listen. I know that's why, Kathy. I don't do picture shows every night because people. And when I do my picture shows, I'm gonna do them where somebody doesn't have to keep staring at the screen because so many people are working or they're trying to rest their eyeballs or just listen to what the news and what I think about it and stuff like that. So I'm not gonna overdo my picture shows and do more of my talkies. So I thank everybody who's coming in tonight. I thank everybody who watches after the live stream. So if you want to be part of the live stream, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when I go live. Hi, Melinda. So anyway, somebody posted this up. A little clip from 1986. Donald Trump buys Mar-A-Lago at the age of 39. 39. It was just yesterday, wasn't it, folks? Just yesterday.
Has 118 rooms, half of them bedrooms, 33 bathrooms, a theater, and just in case, 3 bomb shelters. During the 70s, the federal government held it as a presidential retreat, but gave it back. Well, the house is Mar-A-Lago. Now, if the government couldn't afford it, you might wonder who could. Meet Donald Trump, real estate man and multimillionaire.
Yeah, that's right. This is the great entrance hall to Mar-A-Lago. And throughout the house, they have 36,000 of these tiles. They're each in themselves a work of art. And it's a very special entryway, as you can see.
So you walk in here and people start gasping just about at this point, right?
Well, they are very, they're amazed at what they see, as I was when I first walked in and as you were.
When you first walked through that door, the first time you walked into this house, what did you think?
I couldn't really believe it.
And that's when it cut off. So, but anyway, it's an interesting clip. And it made me cogitate on the back in the day. Let me tell you about back in the day. She said in the 1970s, Mar-a-Lago, the government had it as a presidential retreat. Then in the 1970s, they gave it back because they could not afford the upkeep. So just to give you a little aside about some of this history of presidential things. I think it was Merriweather Post built Mar-a-Lago. I could be wrong about that. And she meant it as a winter White House. And the government had control of Mar-a-Lago for decades and decades. When Jimmy Carter came into office, now y'all hear me out, not only did he sell the Panama Canal, which we're suffering from that because the Chinese control that now, and the Panama Canal controversy is what propelled Ronald Reagan to the White House in a major landslide. But what else he did, he started the precedent of tradition of presidential candidates turning in their tax returns. So he turned in his peanut farming tax returns, and since then they've all been, demanding tax returns. Nobody else has to, just the president because of Jimmy Carter. But what's the other thing that he did? He chopped Mar-a-Lago off the budget to act like he was a common man. He didn't need all this fancy stuff to save the government money because the country was falling into, as he, in his own words, called a malaise. That was a very famous word he spoke. And part of the reason we were propelled into a severe recession, some would say depression, and that's when we went through the gas lines, the interest rates going through the roof, all kinds of terrible things we're not even close to now. But anyway, another thing he did was he got rid of the presidential yacht called the Sequoia. The Sequoia. There's a lot of history behind the Sequoia. The Sequoia was where Roosevelt and Churchill met during World War II. President, I forget which one it was, might have been Grover Cleveland, had his jaw operated on in secret, cancer. He had removed from his jaw. But anyway, I almost bought that yacht back in, I think it was around 2002 or 5, somewhere in there. But anyway, I did. Thank goodness. Because it's a wooden boat. It's beautiful. It's top of the line. But with a wooden boat, when you go to sleep, all you can do is lay there and listen to it rot. But anyway, so isn't it ironic that they muscled Nixon out? Don't believe what you hear and see about what kind of a man Nixon was, what he did wrong, what they even accuse him of is laughable peanuts compared to what's going on right now. But it is what led to Mar-a-Lago going into private hands, and then it ended up in the hands of DJT, and now he's president of the United States, and it is a centerpiece property that this judge this wino day drinking commie liberal judge, period, put it a value of $18 million. A foolish position to take. And yeah, he bought it. He paid, they were asking 20. That's right, Michael. And he paid 10 million. So back in 86, when Ronald Reagan was president. Yeah, it's worth over $1 billion now, Georgia. Yeah, it sure is. Could be, bumping up around $2 billion. Actually, somebody in the chat said the other night, I might have said this already, but they said priceless in there. And, it's getting down to be a part of our history, part of this nation's history. Yeah, so I'm just checking what everybody's got to say. So, yeah, it's worth over $1 billion now. And let's see. Back in the day, before Jimmy Carter became president, we had the gas shortages. And you rode around in a car. I mean, a car. That thing was, you built like a brick you-know-what house. And, but anyway, this is a nice little meme. Shoved in the back with no AC, video games, quote, iPads, TV, or internet. And I still survived. We survived and thrived. So anyway, this model vehicle I'm looking at here, I would say is probably a late 60s. What do y'all think? That's a Country Squire? If they had the flip-up seat in the back, and we all used to fight over sitting in the back seat that faced back towards the people driving behind you. Remember that, folks? Hi, Lone Wolf. How you doing? So I believe that's what that is, a Ford Country Squire. I could be wrong, but anyway. So let me see if this one will play. This is Chris Christie trying to bash on Trump. He's talking about how Trump makes fun of his weight, how he should already know he's been struggling with his weight.
If we want to break news, I've struggled with my weight for about 20 years, like tens of millions of Americans.
The devil, you said.
Right, exactly. So it's great news there.
Y'all probably seen that already. I just thought it was funny. I play it. But anyway, there's two clips from how Mr. T started his morning at the courthouse, and one at lunchtime. I make sure I get it right. Here's one. Here's something somebody put up. Truth Social put this up. Wait a minute. Let me put this up, folks, just to keep you all in perspective about stuff we've talked about in the past. Remember, I saw this today. I said, who put that up? Truth Social put it up, a sponsored truth. And why did they put that up? For those of you who missed my broadcast, I was talking about when Trump put this word up. I was in a situation where I had to pretty much stay at bed rest. So I had a lot of opportunities to be on the internet. And I wasn't into any of this stuff. And I was just starting to get into the 17th letter, trying to figure out what it was all about. But anyway, Trump put this word up and everybody started making fun of him. But I looked it up right away. I mean, the day he posted it, Kofefe. And it said it was an Arabic word for I will stand. I will stand. Or a variant of that. And that was after he returned from Saudi Arabia and got the sword dance. So when I really started going high gear over this stuff, was when I noticed that GOOGLE vacated this word from the internet. You couldn't find the definition anymore. And I was telling a friend of mine, I just looked it up. I just looked it up the other day, and all that you got was jokes and memes and then mocking Trump and no definition of it. So anyway, I just thought it was interesting because it says, calling all Republicans, don't miss the book that's taking the GOP by storm. Oh, storm. Okay, well, I thought that was cute. I saw that today, and I figured I'd put it up. But anyway, let's run through some of this stuff. This is how Trump started out his morning. And the Palm Beach Post. The Palm Beach Post put up another article. I might have bits and pieces of it here in my studio. But if I don't, let me go ahead and say something before I forget. They reported that a large number of attorneys had been disciplined and or disbarred in Florida. And they put a couple of cases up about them. I mean, it's anything from one guy got in trouble for burglary or breaking and entering into an occupied dwelling. And we're talking attorneys. Others for not showing up for their drug rehab or alcohol problems, and others were for messing around with escrow accounts, and one had belatedly, the term they used, disgorged the money to a spouse that he was supposed to give, just craziest stuff. And I thought that was rather strange because I've shown articles in the past and I've said in the past, the Bar Association can do something about attorneys if they want to, including judges. And so, you're starting to see more of that. And just give a little, next week's going to be Columbus Day. Give a little shout out to Columbus. We've been over this issue many times. Me scusi, but the cannibalism must stop. We've been over this before with the Aztecs, Cortez, how they portray Europeans as coming over here and disrupting a dream world, nature hippie fest, when it was actually a place you didn't want to live. It was without God. So a little shout out to Christopher Columbus. And boy, are we drifting away. Throw out the lifeline, throw out the lifeline. There's so many articles and stories. I guess you all heard about that girl that hit a teacher with a metal chair and knocked her out. I told you about the boy that felt he was something else according to his parents and abused those three girls. Things are really getting rough. So anyway, this is the way Mr. T started his day. And before I really got any reports, I started getting articles in my news feed. One of them was this. Clarence Thomas recuses himself, and they show a picture of him with his head down. Oh, Clarence Thomas recuses himself as Supreme Court rejects ex-Trump lawyer John Eastman's appeal. Thomas, who was under fire over claims of ethical lapses, was criticized for not recusing himself from a separate January 6th related case because his wife, Virginia Ginny Thomas, supported then-President Donald Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 election. I thought, oh boy, here we go again. So it was like a 4-page article, and I read parts of it. And I'm getting bombarded. Here's another one. Supreme Court hears first case of term as Thomas recuses himself. 3 hours ago, Justice Thomas stayed out of the Supreme Court's decision not to hear an appeal from lawyer John Eastman. John Eastman's SCOTUS declines to hear a ruling. And you're like, oh boy, you know, you've seen this deluge of news articles from CNN, from, what's this one from? Washington Post. What was that first article I put up? I don't even know. Let me see. One of these creepy news services. I don't know. It's not on there. But anyway, you're like, oh my God, he's going to New York to deal with that wino hippie commie judge. But then I read the article that had this headline you're looking at now. And I read page 1, page 2. They went over the terrible insurrection. Eastman is before the ethics committee to get disbarred in California. You're reading all this garbage. And then you get at the very end, guess what they talk about? After all this blather, I'll tell you, let me pull it up here. Oh my, where's that? Well, I'll just go ahead and put this up. Here we go. Newsweek. Newsmax, sorry. Bite my tongue. Newsmax. The Supreme Court on Monday turned away a case involving whether former President Donald Trump should be disqualified from the 2024 election under a constitutional provision barring anyone who, quote, engaged in insurrection or rebellion from holding public office. That was the real story of the Supreme Court, folks. Supreme Court rejects long shot bid to disqualify Trump. And why is this YUGE huge? It's huge because that is already stare decisis with the Supreme Court. Good luck to the states that are going to try to keep him off the ballot. They tried to obscure this big, big deal by talking about John Eastman. The reason they didn't rule on it was because it was an issue concerning the J6 committee subpoenaing some of his documents since the J6 committee was disbanded. And by the way, all their evidence destroyed. The case was considered moot. So that's what they chose as the headline, not this bombshell that forget your 14th Amendment claims, you commie clowns. So anyway, let me see here. What do we have? Here again. Then this was coming through my feed. NBC, January 6th defendant who wanted to arrest, quote, the traitors to protect the Capitol is sentenced to 4 years. Well, this is what we want to know about. Is he going to get 4 years? But anyway, and the article underneath this, Trump trial, AG, Attorney General shows previously unseen deposition, I guess a videotaped deposition, that showed family deny fraud. Who put this up? Business Insider. This is important, and why I say it's important is because how today ended. How today ended is why it's important. How did today end? I'll tell you how today ended. But let's see how it began. I'm going through how it was beginning. And I keep in mind, one of the most important things Mr. T said, and he only so far has said it once to my knowledge, that these people are conducting illegal psychological warfare campaigns in the plural. Okay? And that can go to media, that can go to prosecutors that are leaking things to the media on purpose, that can go to Hollywood. These illegal psychological warfare campaigns are going to be addressed, and I always look for signs of them. And also, RICO issues, things that are showing a conspiracy through a corrupt organization. Here's a meme I liked. I think you all will like it too. Dom Lucre. This is the most accurate court sketch of all time, because nobody could have made it this far alone. Oh my goodness, Mary, you had a tough day. Fraud charges on your account. Yeah, I tell you, there's so many criminals out there. Hi, Cheryl. How you doing? Hi, Redhausen. How you doing? Garrett, how you doing? Who else did I miss? Hi, Tracy. I probably missed a lot of people. Angela. Em, how you doing? Yeah, I saw that video, Henri. I was going to get a clip of it. I got a clip of him drinking wine. That's why I call him a day drinking wine head, commie, liberal, dried up judge. So, let me see. I got a new cover. So, anyway, that's a nice drawing there. I don't know if you want to get a screenshot of it and just put it on your Meta or Facebook and let the creepos scream, right? Oh, I might as well play that since we got a good crowd in tonight. Did you all get to see this yet? Let me see. Some good morning wishes for people. Let me see. I'm going to get that centered up right. This will be a good one if you can get a little clip with the scissors down there in YouTube. They get it where you can clip out something in a video and send it to a friend.
Donald J. Trump is president.
Sorry. To my world, I'm so sorry.
I'll play that later just for laughs. But anyway, I got to get some of these clips played. Now, let me make sure I get this right. I believe he started off in the morning. Let me see if this is the right clip. One of them, he's got his attorney on his right side. That's afterwards. Let me see. This is the one before, where she's on his right side. Well, I'm not sure which was the first one. There's two clips. And, let me see. I will take a chance and play this one first. I believe this might be when he was on lunch break. If not, I'll stop it and get the other one.
Captain.
Okay. Thank you very much. This is a continuation of the single greatest witch hunt of all time. We have a rogue judge who rules that properties are worth a tiny fraction, 1/100th, a tiny fraction of what they actually are. We have a racist attorney general who's a horror show, who ran on the basis that she was going to get Trump before she even knew anything about me. She used this to run for governor. She failed in her attempt to run for governor. She had virtually no polling. She came back and she said, well, now I'll go back to get Trump again. And this is what we have. It's a scam. It's a sham. Just so you know, my financial statements are phenomenal. They are actually less in terms of the numbers used than the actual net worth. The actual net worth is substantially more. No bank was affected, no bank was hurt. They don't even know why they have to be involved. And they've so testified.
This was the point during this entire morning talk. This was the point where CNN cut him off. Okay? So I got this clip from Forbes magazine to show the whole statement. They cut him off and started talking about whatever they wanted to talk about. But at the beginning, you notice Trump ties this case into Russia, which ties into Hillary, which ties directly into Obama, which ties into the 51 intelligence service agents that signed that letter saying Hunter Biden's tablet was a fraud. I'm just pointing that out. I'll let him continue.
They can't believe that they're involved because they were paid back on time. There were no defaults. There were no problems. And it was like a perfect client. In the meantime, people are being murdered all over the sidewalks of New York. There was no victim here. The banks were represented by the best, biggest, most prestigious law firms in the state of New York, actually in the country. Some of the biggest and best law firms. In all cases, the biggest and best law firms. That's who represented them. The banks got back their money. Again, there was never a default. There was never a problem. Everything was perfect. There was no crime. The crime is against me because we have a corrupt district attorney, but we have a corrupt attorney general, and it all comes down from the DOJ. They totally coordinated this in Washington because I'm the leading candidate. I'm leading Biden by 10 points. And I'm leading the Republicans by 50 and 60 points. That's pretty much, they say, over. I never accept that, but they say it's over. This has to do with election interference, plain and simple. They're trying to damage me so that I don't do as well as I'm doing in the election. Our country's gone to hell. A country that's in decline, serious decline. We have a man running our country who has no clue, doesn't know what he's doing, and you know it better than anybody because you have to cover him. What they've done with open borders, what they've done with interest rates and taxes, it's a disgrace. So what we have here is an attempt to hurt me in an election. It's an attempt to hurt me in an election. This never happened before.
You heard that? Somebody was interrupting, trying to say something guttural. And somebody told him very firmly a couple of times, be quiet, be quiet. And I thought that they weren't going to listen, but somebody's keeping discipline in that hallway.
The President of the United States leaves office and gets indicted. And the reason I got indicted was that I ran. If I didn't run, I'd be sitting right now at a beach like Biden does every time, even though he's supposed to be working. So very simply put, it's a witch hunt. It's a disgrace. We have a corrupt attorney general in this state. You see how she does? This trial was railroaded and fast-tracked. This trial could have been brought years ago, but they waited till I was right in the middle of my campaign. The same with other trials and indictments. It's all run by DOJ, which is corrupt in Washington. Everything goes through them. They're all corrupt people. Frankly, our country is corrupt. And that's one of the reasons I'm running. We're going to straighten it out. They have one property that's worth anywhere from 50 to 100 times what this judge put down as a value. Put down a value $18 million, and the property's probably worth, could be anywhere from 50 to 100 times more than that. And a lot of those numbers could even be low. We have other properties the same thing, so he devalued everything. I didn't even put in my best asset, which is the brand in terms of value. Coca-Cola, take a look at their value. They have a value. The value of their brand is more than everything else put together. My brand is extremely valuable. I didn't even use it in my financials. If I wanted to build up a financial statement, I would have built it up by using brand in addition to everything else. We have the greatest properties. We have among the greatest properties in the world, and I have to go through this for political reasons. This judge is unopposed. The reason he's unopposed is because he's getting Trump. They always run opposed. He's getting Trump. The bosses say, don't run against this guy. He's doing great. He's getting Trump. But he overplayed his hand, and he should be investigated for what he's done. What he did in undervaluing these properties is a disgrace to our nation. This shouldn't be a case. One other thing. We have a clause in the contract which tells, essentially, buyer beware. The contract is very, very, if you take a look and you speak to the banks, and you will, I hope you speak to the banks, because the banks got paid in full.
Buyer beware. Remember that term, folks, because we're going to be hearing terms that, as far as professional ethics, in the real estate field, in the legal profession, in many professions, we're going to hear stuff that people are supposed to know before they hold a professional license. And if they go beyond standards of practice and ethical practices, if it's not because of their stupidity, if it's for political reasons or criminal conduct, that causes a whole new can of worms for them. Buyer beware. And also, I'll wait till his afternoon talk to get into that farther. But if you know, it's really important to listen to him because he's giving an education to a lot of people about various finer points of the law. Okay, so I'll let it continue.
But we have a clause in the contract. It's like a buyer beware clause. It says when you take a look
at the financial statement, don't believe anything you read. This is up front. Don't believe anything you read. Some people call it a worthless clause because it makes the statement and anything you read in the statement worthless. It says go out and do your own research, go out and do your own due diligence. You have to study the statement carefully. Do not believe anything. In fact, it's so strong that people read it and they don't even accept it. They don't even want it. They don't even use it. It's called a disclaimer clause. It's very common. If you put it in, if you don't have time to do statements, or even if you do have time, people like to have it. This is what's called a full disclaimer. We disclaim the financial statements. But even with a full disclaimer, which immediately takes you out of any fraud situation and any litigation, and by the way, when the Attorney General found out about the disclaimer clause, he said, that's okay, let's go forward anyway. It's good publicity. These are corrupt people we're dealing with, the most corrupt people. We have a great company. I built a great company. It's got tremendous value. It's got some of the before a rogue judge as a continuation of Russia, 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 as a continuation of the greatest witch hunt of all time. And I don't think the people of this country are going to stand for it. If I weren't leading in all the polls, or if I weren't running, I wouldn't have any of these cases. I wouldn't be seeing you this morning. But I'll be seeing a lot of you because this is a horrible thing that's happening to our country, and we've got to get it straightened away. So we'll go in and see our rogue judge, and we'll listen to this man. And I think most people get it. People are getting it. I can tell you the voters getting it because every time they give me a fake indictment, I go up in the polls, and that's never happened before. But this because she's turning off everybody from coming in. You know, I don't know if you take a look at the outflow of business. Businesses are fleeing New York because of horrible, horrible attorney generals and judges like we have. They go to other places where they can be treated fairly and with respect. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Okay, so he bookended that talk. He bookended it with the one of the biggest crimes in American history, which is the removal of Donald Trump through illegal psychological warfare campaigns, and part of their weaponry was the Russia collusion hoax. So he tied that back in. Hi, Roy, how you doing? Pappy Two Bears, how you doing? Ha ha. So, hi, Dottie, nice to see you. Terry, nice to see you. Oh, we got a bunch of new people in. Great, good to see you all. Good to see you all. Nice to see you. Let's see. Outlandish, how you doing? So we're going to get down to what happened to Mr. T. Garrett. Just hang in there. Hang in there and enjoy the show. That was before he went in. And the next time he came out, I guess, was when they took a lunch break. And he was strong in this talk here. And he was laying out groundwork about acceptable practices, like the strength of a disclaimer, the acceptance by law and prior court cases of disclaimers, established stuff that this judge is stepping over top of, and also about the prosecutor, how they need to be looked at also. All right, so you saw the attorney there was standing on Trump's right. Now during lunch break, she's on the left, and he's in a little bit much more irascible mood. He's very upset over this. The appeals commission panel of 5 judges said there was a statute of limitations that had expired for up to 80% of the case, was supposed to be history. That's why I brought up that article about the depositions that the Attorney General played for the public that should have never been taken, that involved Donald Trump's children. They put them on the stand. They asked them questions. They videotaped them, and they had, it's just like, I go up and somebody says, "When did you stop beating your wife?" And I never beat my wife. Oh, you say you never beat your wife? When that type of question is not even allowed. And they knew it, and they videotaped it, and then they released it to the public when it had no part of the case. And this judge is allowing it. It's propaganda, it's psyops, it's abuse of their office. Anyway, Trump finds out that this judge is going to go forward with his $18 million ridiculous estimation of Mar-A-Lago. He does not recognize the court above him. And remember when I talked about, what's her name, Sotomayor, Judge Sotomayor, going against the high court about the ammunition clips. Remember I said that? And I talked about governors and attorney generals ignoring higher courts. And I said that was going to cause a conflict. So here this judge ignores the 5-member panel appellate court that said statute of limitations on 80% of this is over with. So Trump takes a lunch break, and he's not in a good mood.
Okay, thank you, everybody. This is a disgraceful situation. As I say, murders are going on as you stand here, and they're wasting everybody's time for many months on this case where banks got paid a fortune, loan money got paid money back, didn't even need their money. They built a great company, and we have to go through this. So this just broke, but before I discuss that, why are we trying a case that the Appellate Division of New York State has just ruled recently that we won 80% of our case, and this judge refuses to acknowledge the ruling, which is very plain for all to see. We won, as you know, it had to do with Ivanka and it had to do with other things. It had to do with the statute of limitations, where they wanted to go back to 200 years ago, 500 years ago. It was limited, very much limited, and it amounted to about 80% of the case was won by us in the appellate division. And this rogue judge, a Trump hater, the only one that hates Trump more is his associate up there, his person that works with him. She's screaming into his ear on almost every time we ask a question. A disgrace. You want to know the truth? It's a disgrace. So this rogue judge refuses to acknowledge the fact that we won 80% of this case in the appellate division.
I'm interrupting because he mentioned the clerk squawking in the judge's ear repeatedly. And if you watch that video, and I'll play it next time I do a picture show of that judge, not only him sucking down wine, if I could find that clip, during a hearing, but also this clerk squawking in his ear during deliberations. Trump brought that up. But anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt. I'll let it continue.
Statute of limitations. You know, in the statute of limitations, you have a period of such a ridiculous thing. So we won the case in the appellate division, and this judge refuses to acknowledge the appellate division, meaning he's got contempt for his own court system. Nobody's ever seen that before, where he refuses to even talk about it or acknowledge it. And the Attorney General is she's a corrupt person, a terrible person, driving people out of New York, number one. That's number one. Number two, it just came out a few minutes ago where Palm Beach County, the people that do this, agree with us 100%, and they say the judge is wrong. The judge is wrong in his ruling. He valued Mar-A-Lago at $18 million, and it's worth $1 billion, maybe $1.5 billion. And you saw where various properties that we have that are valued in the financial statements, which is totally subject to the clause that you've all been hearing about doing buyer beware, as they call it. But this just came out. Error in New York civil fraud case against Trump is flagged by industry insiders who say valuation of Mar-a-Lago cited by judge is based on a misunderstanding of basic real estate practice. So they're saying the judge has misunderstood basic real estate practice. I say they're wrong about that. He didn't misunderstand it. This is a rigged court. He's put there to do a job on Trump. Now, this comes from highly respected officials in Palm Beach County. By Judge Engoron, surfaces in the use of a Palm Beach County appraisal of Mar-a-Lago that, an expert says, is detached from the true value of the property. Now, I don't know the people that we're talking about in Palm Beach County, but they saw this egregious trial, this horrible, horrible trial going on, while at the same time people are being murdered right outside of the streets.
And nothing happens to those people.
What he said, he didn't know those people in Palm Beach County, the highly respected, he said, real estate experts and officials that said the judge was detached from the actual value. That's a nice way of saying he doesn't know his backside from third base. Trump says, I disagree. He does know. He's doing it on purpose. That's very, very important point. But these officials he's referring to, I'm sure some of them, there is a national real estate board. There's regional real estate boards. There's local real estate boards. And they oversee the standards of practice and code of ethics for people who are engaged in real estate sales and management and appraisals. And it is regulated, and it has very strong ethical values. My personal opinion is that it is a little tattered compared to back in the day. But the preamble the preamble to the Code of Ethics for realtors in general, for the real estate profession, is the quote, "Under all is the land. Under all is the land." Everything we engage in, everything we do, underneath it all is the land. Real estate. It is the most valuable asset you can have, and the regulation thereof, the statute of frauds, as a matter of fact, is based solely on real estate transactions. They are required to be in writing. You and I can contract verbally in most every state. We can do a handshake. If you're going to pave my driveway for $1,000, I'll shake your hand, and it's a contract, a verbal contract. Real estate, according to the statute of frauds, has to be in writing in a valid contract. So you get into contract law anyway. But apparently there was a large number of real estate professionals and attorneys that are bound by ethical, their oaths, their standards of practice, and their code of ethics. And they all stepped up and said, this judge, they tried to be nice about it and said he just didn't grasp it. He doesn't really grasp it. Trump was smart enough to say it's a little dirtier than that. But let's go ahead and keep going.
People that do the murdering, they go after Trump. So this was just released by Palm Beach County, that the judge in this case is wrong. And by the way, he's talking about them. So they're explaining to him that he's wrong. Here's another one, just came out. New York v. Trump could set precedent for the use of New York's overweening executive law. Doing business in the Empire State. Anybody that does business in New York State is crazy. When you have a radical left attorney general like Letitia James, who's a disgrace to our country, who got elected on the fact that she's going to take down President Trump. We're going to take him down. She knew nothing about me. But she got elected on that basis. And we have others likewise. Take a look at what's going on in Georgia. Take a look at Jack Smith. Take a look at these people. This is called election interference, and worse than that, really much worse than that. And you don't get much worse than election interference, especially we're talking presidential election of 2024. So this judge should change his ruling because Palm Beach County said he was totally wrong.
And it was ruling based on them.
So I just want to interject very quickly what he is also pointing out. What is destroying business values, real estate values, is this government corruption. These judges and these prosecutors are the tip of it, but they are the final say. And they're attempting to break Trump, and they've done it to others that people have a political axe to grind, or somebody owns a piece of property and somebody with a little more political clout wants to take that property. Think Maui, okay? Think Maui. And they get away with it, and that's what really destroys economies. That's what really causes an artificial collapse in business activity, is this kind of communist operatives that are in the government. But anyway, I'll let the tape play out.
He ruled we didn't even have a chance to testify. I got a call last week, sir, we lost part of the case. I said, the trial didn't even start. You know, the trial starts, I guess, today. He ruled that we lost a big part of the case because he's a Democrat club politician. He's a Democrat operative, and he's a disgrace to people that call themselves judges. And I hope my lawyers go in and I hope they fight him very hard, because this guy's getting away with murder. And his clerk should not be allowed to be in his ear on every single question. You take a look at what's happening with her. She hates Trump more than he does. So that's where it is. We have 80% of this trial has been won. In June, they came down, the end of June, with a decision, very powerful decision. And it said on statute of limitations and just about everything else, did you say approximately 80% of the trial? Attorneys, is that right? Approximately 80% of the trials won. He refuses to acknowledge his own appellate division. And I think it's a disgrace to our country. And somebody has to fight, because if you don't fight, our country's just going to go down the tubes. This is election interference. This guy's a highly partisan person, and we can't let this stuff happen. So you should ask yourselves as professionals, I have a lot of respect for you, not all of you, but a lot of you. Why is it that he didn't honor the decision of the appellate? And by the way, I believe it was a unanimous decision, right? It's a 5-0 decision, unanimous decision. And he said, I'm not going to honor it. Let's go to trial. It's a judge that should be disbarred. This is a judge that should be out of office. This is a judge that some people say could be charged criminally for what he's doing. He's interfering with an election, and it's a disgrace. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Mr. Trump, why do you want to be here in person today?
Because I want to watch this witch hunt myself. I've been going through a witch hunt for years, but this is really now getting dirty between Jack Smith and between all of these DOJ people, helping them along. This is a pure witch hunt for purposes of interfering with the elections of the United States of America. It's totally illegal. This judge should be disbarred. He shouldn't be allowed to be a judge. Thank you.
Wow, that was strong. That was strong. He should be disbarred, and he said some feel he should be criminally charged. And so a lot of people are like holding their breath. I mean, he walked in that courtroom, and he took control of that hallway, and he was on fire. So always keep in mind, during the you-know-what-demic, right, Bill de Blasio was bragging when they were doing that moratorium on evictions, when they were shutting down businesses. They were enjoying the economic destruction. And Bill de Blasio said on tape, the property values go down. He wanted to work a deal with Black, and the second word is rock, okay, to scoop up all the rental property and run their own little Marxist utopia in New York, okay? So who's the ones that are defrauding the people, using their government power? Think Maui, okay, folks? Let me see what's going on in the chats. So, I thought, my gosh, that judge, and in many cases, if you're out there in the hallway cursing the judge, he didn't curse him, but, these creeps will see an offense. They get offended if the wind blows, or if the wind doesn't blow. So, try and hang him with a contempt of court or a gag order or something like that. But he was in the hallway exercising his First Amendment, and he was upset, and he had every right to be. So they go back in the courtroom, and Trump, in this last talk we just heard, he did mention that clerk squawking in the judge's ear, and he made no bones. Nikki said, You always said that you are not worried because Mr. T isn't worried. How do you feel about it now? He's not worried. He's angry. Nikki, I think what you saw there was an angry man because he's pointing out, even though he's using strong language and he has a stern look on his face, he's pointing out many of the things that I was talking about. Professionalism, okay, ethics. When he talked to the news, he said, "You all are professionals." I don't think much of every one of you, but some of you I do think a lot of. You are professionals. You have to behave professionally about this story. So there are standards of practice, and there is accepted law that we cannot allow them to step over. But anyway, let me play this last clip because Garrett was asking what happened to him, right? Nikki was saying, what do I feel about how he's doing? He went back in the courtroom, and you can bet that judge's phone was ringing. You can bet that the strong manner that Trump handled this, he mentioned criminal behavior, okay? That was a consideration of some people. He didn't say himself, but he said he should be disbarred and he should be removed as a judge. He didn't play around. He goes back in there, and when he comes back out, let me see, here we go. I just got a little part of this clip, but it's enough for you to get the feel of the situation when he came out of the courtroom after the judge finished his hearing for the day.
Well, I think that was very good. That last 5 minutes was outstanding. The statute of limitations that we won at the Court of Appeals is in effect. Therefore, about 80% of the case is over. I was going to come out and say that, as you know, we're not entitled to a jury, which is pretty unusual in the United States of America. So I think it's very unfair that I don't have a jury, but the judge's last statement was very fair. And if I read it right, I'll let perhaps one of the lawyers speak to it. But maybe you'll speak to it if you would. But the way I interpret that, and the way everyone else in the room seems to interpret that, is that the statute of limitations is a very real thing in this country. And that would be about 80% of this case would be over. Could somebody speak to that, please?
Sure. So based on the judge's comments, based on the judge's comments at the end of the trial today, it would appear that he is agreeing that all the transactions had closed prior to
80% of the case. When Trump went back in there after his 2 discussions in the hallway, the judge reversed himself. He reversed himself. And this is a picture Benny Johnson put up while this stuff was going on. Let me see where. Oh, goodness. Happened. Okay, there we go. There's Benny Johnson. Here's a picture of Trump. He was not happy. And can you imagine being that judge? And let me tell you, Trump had him dead to rights. Trump has him. He didn't have him. He has him dead to rights. Okay? And the thing to remember, this judge has been in there for decades. Remember when I went back over some old posts that showed Chuck Schumer that discussed Heidi Fleiss's little black book, okay? And we haven't gotten one name, one charge, one prosecution from Ghislaine Maxwell's black book. And I would bet dollars to donuts that scarecrow, that dried up old fart is in that book. Hi, Bambi, how are you? They're desperate. and they're doing desperate things. So the 20% of this case that is supposedly still alive is gonna get thrown out. Hi, Araceli, how are you? Hi, Mary. So this judge did, I see Mary said, how will he fare without a jury? Well, what this judge did was he issued what's called a summary judgment. He just made a judgment on his own, pretending like he was so ignorant that he thought Mar-A-Lago was worth $18 million. You couldn't pave the pathways for the golf carts and the driveways and maintain the fence for that. Yeah, I saw that darting around. He was sucking out of a wine bottle during a trial on a video conference. I'm glad to hear that, Araceli. The storm is going. Mr. Trump was having his own little storm out there in that hallway. I mean, that was, and I was concerned. My gosh, have we already gone an hour, 5 minutes anyway? I go and go. But anyway, he was not fooling around. And that judge got the message and flipped it around, because election interference is criminal, okay? Criminal. And ignoring the black letter of the law and ignoring appellate courts as a lower court judge, that's enough to get you thrown off the court. Anyway, this is a viewer-supported and creator-supported channel only. I have a link for Buy Me a Coffee in the description if anybody wants to help the channel out. I really appreciate it. This is pretty much the way we keep the channel going, folks. I don't have any other links for nothing. But anyway, I appreciate everybody that's helped out in the past. Even though you make people like this mad by supporting me. That's what calls you a Trump tard on Truth Social right there. Just remember, folks, that's what calls you a Trump tard on Truth Social. Well, what had been going on today besides Mr. T rattling their cage at the courthouse? I'll tell you what happened. There's been reports that they have started 5 investigations on the Pillow Man, Mike Lindell, with the IRS. And all assets deployed, okay? And let me tell you, before, of course it makes us mad. It makes us mad people like this even have the opportunity to be in positions of public trust, okay? None of these people should be in positions of public trust that we're seeing on a daily basis. But they're there. They're there, and we're finding out how they get there. And we'll get rid of them. Here you go. Here's somebody. California Governor Gavin Newsom has reportedly wasted no time in selecting the replacement for late Senator Dianne Feinstein, picking a bore chin activist and chief of Democratic fundraising beast. So, do you think this person has earned, I'll put it that way, has mental acuity, okay? The mental acuity. Remember, Mr. T used the term low IQ, like with Maxine Waters. Has this person earned a spot on what has been called throughout history the greatest deliberative body in the world, which is the U.S. Senate, or was the U.S. Senate, the greatest deliberative body in the world? Do you think this person, who was in charge of Emily's List president, should be a senator. Not only that, her address was listed in Maryland. Okay. And yeah, I see what you're saying there, Dottie. She has a certain proclivity that excludes men. And they're all that way. There's something going on with all that. Remember, I said that Ronald Reagan was the first divorced president in U.S. history. Americans were so conservative, it took till 1981 to swear in the first president who'd ever been through a divorce. Marriage was taken much more seriously. Now, every job that gets opened up, they put one of their cronies in. Now, hopefully this will play clearly, folks, because I want you to listen to this, and I want you to think. While you're listening to this, think about RICO, okay? Think about corrupt organizations. Think about conspiracies. Think about, not conspiracy theories, people conspiring to defraud others, harm others, take property away from others, kind of like bureaucrats conspiring to dream up regulations and laws that cause your homes to be burned down and you not have the water to fight the battle so your celebrity friends can buy all your land, like in Maui. That's called a conspiracy, okay? But conspiracies can go beyond that. They can, not just from taking your property or trying to make sure you own nothing and be happy. That's a conspiracy enough. And conspiracies can reach into local governments, from unelected bureaucrats from the UN, okay? If they're all tied in the same conspiracy, members of foreign governments, members of non-governmental organizations, if they're all tied into the same criminal organization, Racketeering, Influence, Corrupt Organization Act. That's what RICO stands for. If people conspire to put out a false narrative, okay, to cause fear and trepidation in people, if people conspire to give them equipment like this phone I'm holding in my hand with the objective of unlawfully spying on them or unlawfully conducting illegal psychological warfare campaigns by making sure that only stuff they want me to know gets pumped through this phone. They, through perfidy, got me to buy this phone thinking it would help me. Okay? This short clip, keep those things in mind while you're listening. Keep in mind about human experimentation, okay? And see how crazy all that stuff sounds now.
The difference of this fourth industrial revolution is it doesn't change what you are doing. It changes you if you take a genetic editing.
Data. Do something even more radical than just build digital dictatorships. By hacking organisms, elites may gain the power to re-engineer the future of life itself. But soon, at least some corporations and governments will be able to systematically hack all the people.
Systematically hack all the people. The elites will be able to do this. The stakeholders in the fourth industrial revolution. Who are these stakeholders? And what do they have a stake in? And what do they think they have a stake in? And who gave them the stake? Okay? They're talking corporate terms, they're talking business terms, and in turn, they're talking about human lives. And they are approaching this in a corrupt and deceitful way to take control of people's lives It is the basis of criminality, and we're going to get to the bottom of it, and we're scaring them. I'm going to close out with this short clip, folks. You've heard the first part, but I've added a couple of little things at the end just to let you know and to let the creepos know where we're coming from, folks. I'll play it for you as I go out. Again, I appreciate everybody who has spent their precious time with me. Please hit the notification bell so you know when I go live, and I'll be broadcasting soon. I hope you enjoyed this broadcast. This is Mountain Man, over and out.
Already plans are afoot. If Donald Trump wins, then thousands of his appointees will come into office and they will strip bare the federal government. They will disassemble the government of the United States. They will operationally make it unable to function at any level. These people are nihilists. The people who assaulted the government, tearing it down, taking it apart.
They will never be allowed to walk down the streets again.
Yes.
They have destroyed our city, and New York, especially Queens, is woken up.
Let's pull away from this.
House Democrats will defend President Biden today. We will defend President Biden tomorrow. We will defend President Biden next week. We will defend President Biden next month. We will defend President Biden next year. We will defend President Biden until the very end.